Picture a Tuesday. You wake up, check your phone, make coffee, sit in traffic, attend meetings, scroll through emails, and eventually collapse into bed, feeling like you accomplished nothing. Now ask yourself something. What did you actually do today? Because here is where things get strange. If you could press rewind on our species, 50,000 years, you would find a version of yourself doing something almost unrecognizable, and yet shaped by the exact same forces inside your skull. Most people imagine prehistoric life as constant struggle, chasing animals, running from predators, desperately searching for food at every waking moment. But anthropologist Marshall Solins spent years studying the evidence left behind by hunter-gatherer societies. And what he found was the opposite. Hunter-gatherers were not the most overworked people in history. They were, by some measures, the most leisured. In his landmark 1966 essay, he called them the original affluent society, not because they had more stuff, because they wanted less, needed less, and spent far fewer hours acquiring it. But how few hours? Studies of the Hadza of Tanzania and the Kongsan of the Kalahari consistently show adults spent between 3 and 5 hours per day in direct food-getting activities. So what filled the rest of their day? The answer reveals something important about you. Your ancestors talked constantly. Robin Dunbar at Oxford University found that around 60 to 70% of all human conversational time, even today, is devoted to social information. Who helped someone? Who lied? Who can be trusted? Who cannot? And this is where most people misunderstand gossip. This was not idle chatter. This was survival. In a forager camp, knowing that someone shared food even while hungry was life-saving information. Language, Dunbar argues, did not primarily evolve to warn people about predators. It evolved to manage relationships. The original human superpower was not strength. It was social intelligence. But talking was not the only thing your ancestors did. They played, they created, they made things. Early humans carved figurines, decorated objects, made jewelry, and made music. In fact, the oldest bone flute ever discovered is roughly 44,000 years old, found in a cave in what is now Slovenia. Think about that for a moment. A flute, not a weapon, not a hunting tool, not something required for survival, something someone created because sound gave them something they wanted, something beautiful. Researcher Ellen Dissanayake argued that making things special, transforming ordinary experience into something meaningful, may be as fundamental to human nature as making tools itself. In other words, art was never a luxury. It was part of being human. There was something else too. Something modern life has almost completely erased. Rest. Real rest. Unstructured rest. The kind that exists for its own sake. Anthropologist David Sampson, while studying sleep among the Hadza, found that community members naturally staggered their rest throughout the night. Some slept. Some stayed awake. Some talked quietly by the fire. There was no schedule, no alarm clock, no optimization strategy. And during the day, there were long stretches of simply existing, not producing, not achieving, not checking boxes, just being. And here is where things become uncomfortable. Think about your own day. How much of it involved genuine face-to-face conversation? Not messages, not emails, not comments. Actual human interaction. How much of it involved play? How much involved creating something with your hands? How much involved doing something with no goal beyond enjoyment? How much involved simply existing without trying to improve yourself? For most people, the answer is almost none. And your brain notices. That is why so many people experience a strange hunger after a productive day. Not sadness, not exhaustion, not even boredom. Something harder to describe. A feeling of emptiness. A feeling that something important never happened. Because from your brain's perspective, it didn't. Your ancient ancestor would not recognize your calendar. Would not understand your inbox. Would not understand quarterly reports, performance reviews, or productivity apps. But their brain, the brain sitting inside your skull right now, would immediately recognize what is missing. The social connection, the play, the craft, the movement, the stories, the sunlight, the shared experience of simply being alive alongside other people. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying moments when humans feel most alive, moments of deep engagement, deep fulfillment, deep satisfaction. And the activities most likely to create those states look surprisingly familiar. Skilled craft, rich social interaction, storytelling, play, focused physical activity. The same ingredients that filled a hunter-gatherer's day. The conditions for human flourishing have not changed. Only the world we are trying to flourish inside of has. Your ancestors had no word for Monday, no inbox, no notifications, no performance reviews. But they had something that many modern people spend years searching for. A day that matched what the body expected a day to feel like. They woke up and talked. They moved through familiar land. They made things. They sat in the sun. They solved real problems. They shared food. And after dark, they gathered around a fire, listening to stories, watching sparks disappear into the night sky, until the flames burned low. And here's the strange part. Somewhere deep inside your mind, that version of life still exists. Not as a memory, but as a blueprint. A set of expectations written into your nervous system over hundreds of thousands of years. That restless feeling on a Tuesday afternoon may not be weakness. It may not be laziness. It may not be burnout. At least not entirely. It may be your brain recognizing a mismatch. A mismatch between the life it evolved for and the life it currently inhabits. Because underneath the technology, the deadlines, the traffic, the emails, the meetings, the same human being remains. The same ancient creature, still wanting connection, still wanting meaning, still wanting purpose, still wanting stories, still wanting belonging. And maybe that is why certain moments feel so unexpectedly powerful. A walk outside, a conversation with a close friend, a meal shared with people you love, a campfire, a sunset, a story that makes you feel understood. For a brief moment, the modern world disappears, and something ancient feels at home again. So the next time you find yourself staring at a screen, wondering why a productive day somehow feels empty, remember this: your ancestors were not waiting for the weekend. They were not counting down to retirement. They were not trying to optimize every minute. They were simply living inside a rhythm their minds were built to understand. And somewhere deep inside the architecture of your brain, that is still the Tuesday you are waiting for.